why colors don't actually exist. What Feynman uncovered will blind your eyes. Look around you right now. You see colors everywhere. The red of a stop sign, the blue of the sky, the green of leaves, the yellow of sunlight. Colors seem like the most obvious, most fundamental property of the world. More basic than shape, more immediate than texture, more undeniable than anything else your senses detect. But here's what's going to completely destroy your understanding of vision, perception, and the nature of reality itself. Colors don't exist. Not red, not blue, not green, not any color you've ever seen. What you call color is a hallucination created by your brain, a convincing, beautiful, absolutely fake interpretation of invisible electromagnetic waves that have no color whatsoever. The rainbow you see is not in the light. It's in your head, and once you understand how this massive deception works, you'll never trust your eyes again. Right now, look at something red, a flower, a book, a piece of clothing. That redness you see, that specific quality of red that seems so real, so obviously there, so much a part of the object itself, does not exist outside your brain. The object is not red. Light is not red. Redness is not a property of matter or energy. Redness is a neurological response, a pattern of brain activity, a conscious experience generated by your visual system when it encounters electromagnetic radiation of approximately 700 nanometer wavelength. But the radiation itself has no color. The wavelength has no redness. The color exists only in the private theater of your mind. This isn't philosophy. This isn't semantics. This is measurable, testable physics combined with measurable, testable neuroscience, and it reveals that the most immediate, most trusted source of information about the world, your visual experience, is fundamentally unreliable. Richard Feynman understood this better than almost anyone. He spent his life teaching people that reality is not what it appears to be, that our senses lie to us constantly, that the universe operates according to principles that have no resemblance to our everyday experience. And nowhere is this more true than with color vision. Let me break your brain with some simple facts. White light from the sun contains all wavelengths of visible electromagnetic radiation mixed together. When this light hits an object, some wavelengths are absorbed and some are reflected. A red object absorbs blue and green wavelengths and reflects red wavelengths back to your eye. But here's the crucial point. The reflected light is not red. It's just electromagnetic radiation with a wavelength of around 700 nanometers. It has no color property. Color is what happens when that radiation reaches your eye and your brain interprets it. Your eye contains 3 types of color-sensitive cells called cones. One type responds most strongly to short wavelengths, around 420 nanometer, one to medium wavelengths, around 530 nm, and one to long wavelengths, around 560 nanometer. We call these S, M, and L cones, or sometimes blue, green, and red cones. But that's already misleading because the cones themselves don't see color. They just detect intensity of light at different wavelengths. When 700 nanometer light hits your eye, it stimulates the L cones strongly and the M and S cones weakly. This pattern of stimulation, strong L, weak M, weak S, is sent to your brain as electrical signals. Your brain receives this pattern and creates the conscious experience you call red. But red is not in the light. Red is not in your eye. Red is not in the electrical signals traveling along your optic nerve. Red exists only when your brain interprets those signals and constructs the subjective experience of redness. Here's proof that color is in your brain, not in the world. You can see red by stimulating your L cones with 700 nanometer light, but you can also see red by simultaneously stimulating your L cones with 600 meter light and your M cones with 550 meter light in just the right proportions. This is how computer monitors and TV screens work. They don't emit red light. They emit combinations of wavelengths that trick your brain into creating the experience of red. The red you see on your screen is not the same physical phenomenon as the red you see from a stop sign, but your brain creates the identical conscious experience. This should terrify you. If color is just a brain interpretation, if the same color experience can be created by completely different physical stimuli, then how do you know that what you call red is the same as what anyone else calls red? How do you know that the red experience in your brain matches the red experience in my brain? The answer is you don't, and you can't. Color is subjective, private, internal. There's no way to compare conscious experiences between different brains, but it gets worse. Some people have 4 types of cones instead of 3. They're called tetrachromats, and they can see colors that you literally cannot imagine. Colors that don't exist in your conscious experience. Colors that have no names in any human language because most humans can't see them. If you're a typical trichromat, you're colorblind compared to a tetrachromat. There are colors all around you right now that you cannot see, cannot experience, cannot even conceive of. Your color vision is not showing you all the colors. It's showing you a limited, species-specific, biologically constrained subset of possible color experiences. And some people have only 2 types of cones, or 1 type or none at all. What do colorblind people see? They see different colors than you do. Not wrong colors, not missing colors, just different colors. Their brains create different conscious experiences from the same electromagnetic radiation. Which version is correct? Which version shows the true colors of objects? The answer is none of them. There are no true colors. There are only different ways of interpreting the same colorless electromagnetic radiation. Here's something that will mess with your head. Most animals see colors completely differently than you do. Birds can see ultraviolet. Their world is full of colors you can't see, patterns you can't detect, information you can't access. Bees see flowers with ultraviolet landing strips that are invisible to you. Flowers that look uniform white to you are actually complex multicolored patterns to a bee. Mantis shrimp have 16 types of color receptors compared to your 3. They live in a world of color that is literally unimaginable to human consciousness. Which species sees the correct colors? Which visual system reveals the true nature of reality? None of them. All of them. Color is not a property of the world. It's a property of the interaction between electromagnetic radiation and biological visual systems. Different systems create different colors from the same radiation. No system is more correct than any other. They're all creating hallucinations, just different hallucinations. This brings us to a profound question about the nature of consciousness and reality. If your brain is constantly creating colors that don't exist in the physical world, what else is it creating? What other aspects of your conscious experience are? Fabrications, interpretations, hallucinations generated by your nervous system rather than properties of external reality? The answer is almost everything. Sound doesn't exist in the world. Sound waves exist, pressure variations in air, but the experience of sound, the qualitative feeling of hearing music or voices or noise, exists only in your brain. Touch doesn't exist in the world. Mechanical pressure exists, deformation of surfaces, but the feeling of softness or roughness or heat or cold, these are conscious experiences created by your nervous system. Smell and taste don't exist in the world. Chemical molecules exist, but the experience of fragrance or flavor, these are brain constructions. Even more disturbing, pain doesn't exist in the world. Tissue damage exists, but pain is a conscious experience created by your brain to make you avoid harmful situations. People with congenital insensitivity to pain can't feel pain even when severely injured. The pain is not in their tissues. The pain was never in their tissues. Pain exists only when a functioning nervous system interprets certain signals as pain experience. This means that almost everything you think of as reality is actually consciousness. Not external reality, but internal experience. The colorful, musical, textured, flavorful, painful world you live in exists primarily in your brain. The external world of electromagnetic waves, pressure variations, molecular collisions, and tissue damage, is largely colorless, silent, textureless, flavorless, and painless. Your brain takes this sparse physical information and creates the rich conscious experience you call reality. But here's where it gets really weird. How does your brain create conscious experiences? How does electrical activity in neurons become the subjective feeling of seeing red or hearing music or feeling pain? This is called the hard problem of consciousness, and nobody knows the answer. We know which parts of the brain are active when you see colors, but we don't know how brain activity becomes color experience. We can measure neural responses to different wavelengths, but we can't explain why those responses feel like anything at all. Feynman understood this mystery better than most scientists. He knew that consciousness is the ultimate frontier, the final mystery, the one thing that science can measure from the outside, but can never fully explain from the inside. You can study color vision by measuring cone responses and brain activity, but you can never capture the actual experience of seeing red. The redness is private, subjective, internal. It can be correlated with physical processes, but it can never be reduced to physical processes. This brings us to an even deeper mystery. If colors are conscious experiences created by your brain, and if conscious experiences are somehow generated by brain activity, then how do you know that your brain is generating the same conscious experiences as everyone else's brain? When you and I both look at a stop sign and call it red, how do we know we're having the same experience? The disturbing answer is we don't, and we can't. Consciousness is private. You can never directly access another person's conscious experience. You can only infer it from their behavior and their reports. When someone tells you they see red, you assume they're having the same kind of experience you have when you see red, but this assumption might be completely wrong. It's possible that what you experience as red, I experience as what you would call blue, and vice versa. As long as we both learn to call the same wavelengths by the same color names, we would never discover this difference. This is called the inverted spectrum problem, and it reveals how deeply private and subjective conscious experience really is. The colors you see might be completely different from the colors anyone else sees, and there would be no way to detect this difference. But let's go even deeper into the physics of color. Light itself has no color properties. Electromagnetic radiation is just oscillating electric and magnetic fields propagating through space at the speed of light. The wavelength determines the energy of each photon, but wavelength is just a number, a measurement of the distance between wave peaks. There's nothing red about 700 nanometer photons. There's nothing blue about 400 nanometer photons. These are just different frequencies of the same underlying phenomenon. The electromagnetic spectrum extends far beyond visible light. Radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays are all the same thing, electromagnetic radiation, just at different wavelengths. If you could see radio waves, would they have a color? If you could see X-rays, what color would they be? The answer is, they would be whatever color your brain decided to assign to them. Color is not a property of electromagnetic radiation. Color is a labeling system your brain uses to distinguish between different wavelengths. This is why different species see different colors. Evolution shaped visual systems to detect the wavelengths that were most important for survival in each species' environment. Humans evolved to see the wavelengths that penetrate Earth's atmosphere and reflect off plants and animals. But this is just one arbitrary slice of the electromagnetic spectrum. There's nothing special about visible light except that our eyes happen to detect it. If humans had evolved with different visual systems, we would see different colors. If we had evolved to see infrared, we would think heat radiation was colorful and visible light was invisible. If we had evolved to see ultraviolet, we would live in a world of colors that current humans can't imagine. The colors you see are not the colors, they're just the colors your particular type of visual system happens to create. Now, let's think about what this means for the nature of reality. You live in two worlds simultaneously. the physical world of wavelengths and particles and forces, and the conscious world of colors and sounds and sensations. These two worlds are connected but completely different. The physical world can be measured objectively. The conscious world can only be experienced subjectively. Science studies the physical world. It measures wavelengths, records neural responses, maps brain activity. But science cannot study consciousness directly. It cannot measure the redness of red, the loudness of sound, the painfulness of pain. These conscious experiences are real, but they're not physical. They exist, but they can't be weighed or measured or detected by instruments. They're neither matter nor energy, but they're the most undeniable aspect of your existence. This creates a deep philosophical problem. If consciousness is not physical, how does it interact with the physical world? How does the physical activity in your brain create non-physical conscious experiences? How do non-physical conscious experiences influence physical behavior? This is called the mind-body problem, and it's been puzzling philosophers and scientists for centuries. Feynman was honest about this mystery. He admitted that consciousness is something science doesn't understand, may never understand, and perhaps can't understand. The tools of physics are designed to study objective, measurable phenomena. But consciousness is subjective, private, unmeasurable. It's the one thing you know most directly, but it's also the one thing that science can study least directly. But here's what makes this even more interesting. Even though colors don't exist in the physical world, color vision is incredibly useful. It helps you identify ripe fruit, spot predators, find mates, navigate environments. Evolution created color vision, not because colors are real, but because the hallucination of color provides valuable information about the world. Your brain creates colors as a user interface for electromagnetic radiation. Just like the icons on your computer screen aren't really files or folders, but useful representations that help you interact with data. Colors aren't really properties of objects, but useful representations that help you interact with light wavelengths. The color red doesn't exist in apples, but seeing apples as red helps you distinguish them from green leaves and blue sky. This suggests that all conscious experience might be a user interface rather than a direct perception of reality. What you think of as the real world might be a simplified, interpreted, heavily processed representation designed by evolution to help you survive and reproduce. The actual structure of reality, quantum fields, probability waves, curved spacetime, might be completely different from your conscious experience of solid objects, definite locations, and linear time. In this view, consciousness is not a window into reality. It's a virtual reality system that creates useful illusions. Colors are illusions that help you navigate light wavelengths. Sounds are illusions that help you navigate pressure waves. Solid objects are illusions that help you navigate electromagnetic force fields. Time is an illusion that helps you navigate the entropy gradient. Everything you experience might be a convenient fiction. But here's the beautiful paradox. Even though colors are illusions, they're the most real things in your life. The redness of red is more immediately present to you than any scientific measurement of electromagnetic wavelengths. The experience of seeing colors is more undeniable than any theory about wavelengths and cone cells and neural processing. The illusion is more real than the reality. This tells us something profound about the nature of existence. Reality has at least two levels: the physical level studied by science and the conscious level experienced by minds. Both levels are real, but in completely different ways. Physical reality is objective, measurable, mathematical. Conscious reality is subjective, experiential, qualitative. Neither level can be reduced to the other. Neither level is more fundamental than the other. Colors don't exist in physics, but they exist in consciousness. Pain doesn't exist in tissues, but it exists in experience. Music doesn't exist in air molecules, but it exists in awareness. Love doesn't exist in brain chemistry, but it exists in minds. These things are not less real for being non-physical. They're differently real.